I will take this land instead of 35 million. Take her. She's nothing but a burden. Worthless to me. The words echoed off glass walls and polished stone, sharp enough to cut through skin. No one in the room reacted. Everyone pretended this was normal. My name is Maribel Knox. I was married to Victor Knox for 11 years. Years where I learned how to smile without being seen, how to support a man who took credit for everything my hands quietly fixed. To the world, he was a self-made businessman. To me, he was a man who only loved what he could control. This was our separation hearing. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just surgical. The kind of room where futures are disassembled politely. Lawyers shuffled papers. A judge cleared his throat. And Victor, my husband, stood across from me like I was already erased. When the judge asked how we wanted to divide the assets, Victor didn't hesitate. I don't want the money, he said, adjusting his cufflinks. I want the land. My lawyer looked confused. Everyone did. The land was a coastal property no one wanted, marshy ground, an aging stone house, restricted zoning. Victor had mocked it for years, called it dead weight, said it was the reason our portfolio looked messy. He finally turned to me then, smiled. And take her with it, he added, nodding toward me like I was part of the deal. She's nothing but a burden anyway. I felt my chest hollow out, but not in pain. In clarity. Fine, I said softly. That single word made him relax. He thought he'd won. 3 months later, Victor arrived at that same land with a new woman on his arm. Younger, glossy, laughing too loud. They walked the gravel path together, already talking about renovations. I was inside the house when I heard them. Victor stepped forward first. And when he saw what that land really was, he stopped breathing. That land had never been just land to me. Victor knew that. He just never understood why. I inherited it from my grandmother, the only woman in my family who ever owned anything outright and never apologized for it. As a child, I spent summers there, barefoot on damp stone floors, learning which walls leaked and which ones whispered when the tide came in. When she died, everyone told me to sell it. Everyone except Victor. He told me to keep it. Not because he cared, because he thought it was useless. During our marriage, I quietly handled the paperwork. Zoning meetings, environmental surveys, easements. Victor hated those details. Said they bored him. Said money was made in boardrooms, not muddy fields. When he chose the land over 35 million, I realized something chilling. He still believed I was naive, emotional, attached to memories instead of leverage. After the separation, I went silent. No calls. No arguments. I moved back to the property alone. Let him believe I was hiding. What Victor didn't know, what no one ever bothered to ask, was why the state kept sending certified letters addressed to me, and why I never forwarded a single one. The letters arrived every week, thick envelopes stamped with urgency. Victor used to toss mail like that aside, joking that real money doesn't come with paperwork. So I opened them myself. Every one. The coastal zone had changed. Quietly. New flood mitigation laws. Federal interest. A pilot program tied to renewable infrastructure and protected shoreline access. The land wasn't worthless anymore. It was strategic. But only if handled carefully. Only if the owner understood timing. Victor never did. Friends started calling me, cautiously at first. Are you okay? I heard he's already moved on. I smiled through the phone and said I was fine. Let them picture me heartbroken, pacing empty rooms. In reality, I was meeting surveyors at dawn, sitting through dull hearings, signing documents with steady hands, learning how much power silence gives you when people underestimate you. Then, one afternoon, my neighbor texted me a photo. Victor's car, parked at the gate. 3 months after calling me worthless, he'd brought his new girl to see what he'd taken. Probably to prove something. Probably to rewrite the story, where he was still the winner. I watched from the upstairs window as they walked toward the house, laughing. Victor reached for the door. And that's when his smile disappeared. The lock didn't turn. Victor frowned, tried again, harder this time. The girl behind him shifted, heels sinking into gravel. "Didn't you say this was yours?" she asked, half laughing. "It is," he snapped, already irritated. He stepped back, finally noticing the steel signage bolted beside the door. Official.
Clean.
Federal seal catching the sunlight. His face drained slowly, like color being pulled from wet paint. I opened the door then. Not dramatically. Just enough. "Hi, Victor," I said. He stared past me into the house. The renovated interior. The equipment. The maps pinned along the walls. Men in hard hats moving quietly in the background like this was normal because it was. "What is this?" he whispered. I handed him a folder. "You should read the first page carefully." His fingers shook as he opened it. The girl leaned in, curiosity turning to confusion. Then to fear. Victor's mouth opened.
Closed.
Opened again. You can't." "I can," I said gently. And I did. Sirens sounded in the distance, not police. Inspectors. Scheduled. Expected. Victor looked at me like he was finally seeing me for the first time. And that terrified him. After they left, after Victor stumbled backward, dragging his confusion and his trophy with him, I sat alone at the kitchen table and finally let myself feel it. Not triumph. Not yet. Grief has a strange echo. It doesn't scream when you expect it to. It waits. It taps you on the shoulder when the room goes quiet. I thought about 11 years of swallowing words. About how easily he said I was nothing. About how close I came to believing him. Then the calm arrived.
Clear.
Focused.
Cold in the best way.
I laid out every document in neat rows.
Deeds.
Amendments. Federal partnership agreements. The pilot program didn't just use the land. It required a managing director. Someone with historical ties to the property. Someone Victor had already signed away all claims against.
Me.
Victor thought revenge looked like chaos, anger, drama. He was wrong. Revenge, done right, looks like compliance, like signatures, like patience. And I had planned every step so carefully that the next move wouldn't hurt him loudly. It would hurt him permanently. Victor called that night. Then again. And again. I let the phone light up the dark without touching it. By morning, his voice was everywhere, voicemails swinging between charm and panic. "Maribel, listen. We should talk. This is a misunderstanding. You don't know what you're doing." I did. At 10 sharp, the regional board convened. Long table. Neutral faces. Victor arrived late, suit wrinkled, confidence leaking from every seam. He tried to smile when he saw me seated at the head. "You can't just take this from me," he hissed as he sat. "I didn't," I said. "You gave it to me." The presentation was clinical. Timelines. Signatures. His own recorded statements dismissing the land's value. The clause he waived to be free of her burdens. The board members didn't look at him when they voted. Approval was unanimous. Victor stood up too fast, chair scraping. "This ruins me." I met his eyes.
Come. Steady.
"No, Victor. It corrects you." Security gently escorted him out, not in disgrace, but in silence. And silence was where his power finally died. The fallout wasn't loud. It was worse than that. Victor didn't rage. He unraveled. Within days, the calls stopped, not because he'd found dignity, but because no one was answering him anymore. Partners backed out quietly. A lender delayed funding. A temporary pause turned permanent. The kind of collapse that never makes headlines but empties rooms fast. He showed up once more, alone this time. No suit, no audience. Just a man standing at the edge of property he no longer controlled. "I built everything," he said, voice hoarse. "You were just there." I stepped outside, closed the door behind me. "You're right," I said. "I was there, watching, learning." He looked around, desperate. "If you undo this, we can fix." "No," I said. Not angry, not cruel, just finished. "This is what fixing looks like." He nodded slowly, like someone accepting a diagnosis. When he left, he didn't look back. And for the first time, neither did I. A month later, I received a letter, handwritten. Victor's handwriting used to look confident. Now it's slanted, uneven. He didn't apologize. Men like him rarely do. Instead, he wrote one line that stayed with me. "I never thought you were capable of this." I smiled when I read it. That was the final twist, not the land, not the money, not the public collapse. It was the truth he finally had to live with. His greatest mistake wasn't underestimating the property. It was underestimating me. The project moved forward. Quietly. Successfully. My name was listed where his used to be, and no one questioned it. People rarely question outcomes. They only question women before they win. Sometimes I walk the shoreline at dusk, the same way my grandmother did. The house no longer whispers. It stands solid.
Claimed.
Victor lost more than land that day. He lost the story where he was the hero. And I didn't take revenge. I took back authorship.